published. And we see through their reports and memorandums how their governments acted.
During the war, the great powers sent agents and provocateurs into the Ottoman Empire. The most famous of them was Lawrence of Arabia. Their mission was simple: provoke conflict, play upon nationalist aspirations, incite revolt and bloodshed.
First of all, they were very well trained how to provoke conflicts between different groups, no matter what. What they needed was armed action. Who kills who was not important.
While the Ottomans drove the Armenians back in the east, the war was being lost to the British in Palestine, Syria, and Iraq. In October 1918, the Allies captured Damascus and Beirut. By the end of the month, the Ottoman Empire surrendered and signed an armistice with the great powers of Europe. On November 13th, 2 days after Germany surrendered, an Allied fleet arrived off Istanbul. In the west, the Ottoman army began to lay down their arms. At the Paris Peace Conference the following year, Armenian leader Bogos Nubar reminded the great powers that Armenians had fought on their side. 150,000 Armenians had served in the Russian army. Even after the armistice, European leaders still supported Armenian troops and Greek troops in their fight against the Ottomans.
In the years 1919 to 1920, the great powers sat down at the Paris Peace Conference to divide up the world. Armenians, too, tried to establish an independent Armenia at this juncture. There was a grand Armenia project, which extended from Çukurova to Yerevan. Great Britain and France, in order to preserve their protectorate system they built in the Middle East, wanted to instigate the Greeks in the West and the Armenians in the East against the Turkish nation.
In the face of invasion from Greeks in the West, Armenians in the East, as well as French and Armenian forces in the South, Mustafa Kemal, hero at the Battle of Gallipoli, decided to fight back. Landing at the northern Turkish city of Samsun on May 19, 1919, he rallied the remaining Ottoman troops and forged them into a new fighting force, a Turkish nationalist army. The Turks were determined to save their homeland from dismemberment by the foreign powers. Mustafa Kemal called upon other Turkish leaders to join him.
What he did after that, he called 2 congresses, one at Erzurum for the eastern provinces, which were threatened by an invasion from the Armenian Republic, led by General Antranik, which was causing a great deal of damage, which was killing a lot of Turks in northeastern Turkey. This has been reported on by the American missions there and by British missions, that these Armenian troops were killing a lot of Turks.
At the Sivas Conference, Mustafa Kemal rejected the armistice signed with the great powers, which gave away most of the Ottoman Empire. This new coalition declared a war of independence against all enemies who would destroy their nation with war and massacre.
After 1918, Armenian bands, terror organizations, and Armenian soldiers fighting in the Russian army committed large-scale massacres in the regions occupied by the Russians. As the Russians began to retreat, in the Igdir region alone, they committed massacres in 21 villages.
Besides the invading Greeks in the west and Armenians in the east, Mustafa Kemal had to deal with a third front in the south, where Armenians continued their slaughter with the help of France. Landing in the Mediterranean in late 1918, the French used Armenian rebels in capturing the city of Adana. There they pushed northward. An Armenian legion had been formed, and it immediately began to attack the Muslim population.
The French have a very important role in the clashes between the Turks and Armenians in southeastern Turkey, the Çukurova and Cilicia regions. Thousands of Armenian volunteer fighters wearing French uniforms fought against Turks. French archival documents verify this, not only ours.
The French promised their Armenian forces that Adana and the surrounding region, known as Cilicia, would become part of a great Armenian nation. But their plans backfired. The Armenian Legion committed so many atrocities against the Muslims that it had to be disbanded. The dream of an independent Armenian state in Cilicia was shattered by the advance of Kemalist forces. The French and Armenians had to withdraw, and the Turks reclaimed the region. But on the Armenian question, a very powerful man still stood in their way. The great powers called upon President Woodrow Wilson of the United States to accept a mandate over territories claimed by the Armenians. It would be a way of including the Americans in the final breakup of the Ottoman Empire. Wilson's heart was with the Armenians. A devout Christian, he sympathized with their desire to separate themselves from their Muslim neighbors. In the fall of 1919, Wilson sent General James Harbord on a fact-finding mission to eastern Anatolia and the Caucasus region. Harbord and his commission spent 6 weeks in the area, evaluating the state of affairs regarding Turks and Armenians.
General Harbord from United States was sent to observe, analyze the situation in eastern Anatolia in order to search whether an Armenian mandate can be established or not. And in his report, he also stressed that Armenians were not majority in any part of eastern Anatolia, and that statement was an important factor not to take an Armenian mandate by the American government.
During his mission, Harbord learned of the horrible massacres that had been committed and were still being committed. He also discovered that most of the victims were Muslim.
The conclusion of the report was not really for or against the mandate. General Harbord wrote 12 reasons for and 12 reasons against why the United States should or could accept the mandate. And this was debated at the Congress, and the Congress, something like 57 to 26 votes, voted against the U.S. mandate in eastern Anatolia.
General Harbord reported to his superiors that, while good reasons existed for an Armenian mandate, compelling reasons also existed for rejecting the idea. One reason stood out among all others. The Armenians did not even come close to being a majority in eastern Anatolia. The area was mostly populated by Muslim refugees who had suffered unspeakable horrors since the start of World War I. Yet their suffering was ignored by the West. Instead, they focused relief efforts on the Christian Armenians, raising millions of dollars for food, supplies, and clothing. As for the Muslims, they were on their own.
And the Armenians sent their army to invade other parts of the Caucasus and invade eastern Anatolia, or eastern Turkey. They were met by the army led by Kazım Karabekir, part of the Turkish National Army that was led by him. There were battles. Kazım Karabekir defeated them, pushed them all the way back into Yerevan.